Hey, everybody, welcome to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, your host. We're proud to be part of the Golf News Network and also the Golf News New TV network. We'll talk about that a little bit later. How's your golf game? Do you think you can keep up with the pros coming up? We're going to talk about that too. We'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. Excuse me. And also the Oregon Crab Commission, from sea to plate. There's nothing better than Oregon Dungeness crab. Well, our friend of the show, Mark Ganz, CEO of TGF, that's Tournament Golf Foundation, and the Portland Classic, which comes up August 1st through the 4th at Columbia Edgewater. Mark's on our show every year, or has been for the last few years, to talk about the tournament, and we're always excited to have him. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jeff. Glad to be here.
So what's the big news about the tournament?
Well, it's earlier this year. It's a historically early because of the Olympics.
Right.
So they had to move a lot of the tournaments around in order to kind of fit in the period of time that everyone's going to be at the Olympics. So that's why we're moving to the last that week that bridges the last week of July and the first week of August. We have we will not, as a result, we will not have the players that are playing the Olympics will not be playing in our tournament. But the LPGA is so deep, and there are so many good players like Lexi Thompson, and the name would go on of people who did not make the Olympics, and we're fully expecting that they're going to be here. So, an example, Allison Corpuz, who won the U.S. Women's Open last year, Cheyenne Knight, who won the Dow Great Lakes last year, Shanate Wanasean, who is our defending champion.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Lee, who is playing wonderful golf and has been in contention in the majors this year. She'll be back. She won our tournament a couple years ago. And then Stacy Lewis will be back. And then we're really excited that we're going to have a couple of hometown heroes playing this year now as professionals. Caroline Inglis, who, as you know, was very much in contention at the KPMG,
right,
and then played quite well in the team competition the following week. And then Gigi Stoll, who got her LPGA card this year for the first time, and so she'll be here playing. Good. So we have a whole field, 144 players, and then we'll have, of course, the Julie Inkster Award winner, who is Ingrid Lindblad, who's the #1 amateur in the world. The Inkster Award is for the player that stays all 4 years in college and has the lowest stroke average in her senior year, and that Ingrid had that, and so she'll be here. And then Yvonne Vinceri won the Les Schwab Amateur Open, the one that was one of the innovations we brought to the tournament, was to give an amateur an opportunity to get an exemption into the tournament by earning it, by winning a tournament. And so Yvonne won our tournament, our Amateur Open, which was out at the Astoria Country Club, not Astoria Country Club, sorry, Gearhart Links, a couple of weeks ago. And so we're excited to welcome her to the tournament.
Well, it sounds like you got a great field there.
I think we have a fantastic field, and I actually love the fact that our tournament has launched the winning. We've had first-time winners many times, and people like Brooke Henderson and Andrea Lee, and last year Shanate Wanasean. I mean, they won their first tournament here.
Yeah,
and that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I was there when Brooke won. I don't know when that was, 17, 18, 16. I don't know. Back in the teens when she won.
Yeah, I think it was 20. It was our, let's see, I'm trying to think. 20, yeah, I want to say it was, 2015, 2016 timeframe.
Yeah.
She was a Monday qualifier.
Yep.
And last year, Shanate Wanasean was the Monday qualifier, and she went on to win the tournament, which I love that when that happens.
That's a great story. Great story. I just
really
remember
to the depth of the LPGA, that it is the depth of the LPGA has gotten so much greater in the last 15 to 20 years. Just the quality of golfers, and it used to be there was a very kind of a thinner layer of the kind of great players, and they just kind of traded off with each other who won the tournaments. Now the fields are so deep and the talent is so good, anybody can win a tournament.
Well, except Mark and Jeff. So
Well,
that
that's
won't
true.
work. But
No,
yeah,
yeah.
that's all true. Yeah, I remember Brooke, because if you've ever seen Brooke in person, she's not a very big person. Um, and she won, and I thought she looked like a little kid. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not disparaging her at all, but and then I spent some time when she was in the press room and the tournament was over. I actually spent some time talking to her sister, her caddy, outside. Both of us having a beer, talking about, Brooke. Yeah, it was just kind of this surreal little experience there that I've never forgotten. That it was a lot of fun.
Well,
It was,
remember, she won it 2 years in a row. She came back and defended her title. She was a hockey player as a kid,
yeah,
and it was, I think, the conditioning that she got from hockey and the air, the body awareness and such. You're right. She's one of the longest drivers on the tour. I mean, and it comes out of that diminutive body, but man,
yeah,
she is so strong and she has such good body dynamics in her swing. Amazing.
yeah. Well, and if you look at Stacy Lewis is, she's won the tournament before. I got a chance to interview Stacy on this show a number of years ago when she was when well, I don't think she was defending. I think she came back, but she was going to have her kid too. But anyway,
Yeah.
whatever. But it was the first time I'd ever gotten up really close to her, and I'm not a little guy, but she just looked like this little slightly built person, and I went, wow, and she can knock that ball out there like nobody's business.
All muscle. Yep. And
All muscle like that.
they're such great athletes. God, it's amazing how, they're just how athletic they are. They're wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're excited about the field. We've got we think that from a fan experience this year, Jeff, it's going to be really great because in the last 12 months, the Columbia Edgewater Country Club has been renovating their clubhouse quite dramatically
mm-hmm.
and building some amazing deck spaces that overlook the 18th green, or what will be the 18th green. And so that's allowing us to, change some things. For example, this year there's no need to put a big tent or at the end of the 18th hole, which can kind of cut off a lot of viewing for
Right.
people who don't have access to the tents, because the decks are provide such a good view and they're close enough to the green now that we'll have the VIP areas up on the decks. And so now it'll be completely general seating, general attendance around the green. And we're not going to do grandstands. We're going to just let people bring their, whatever chairs and other things to be able to
Sure.
set up. And we'll have, some concession stations right there so people can go and get a beer or a soda and just enjoy that. I think that's going to create a really neat fan experience, there.
Yeah, it is.
Excited about that.
That's a real beautiful setting there with the the water right in front of 18, and then there's a little. I don't take this the wrong way. There's a grassy knoll there, Mark.
Yeah,
Kind of goes
exactly.
goes
Yeah.
around, and people can sit in the shade. And there's
That's
trees and that, and it will be really delightful. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with Mark Ganz, CEO of Tournament Golf Foundation. Don't forget the Portland Classic is coming up August 1st through the 4th at Columbia Edgewater. Mark and I are going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, your host, and today we're talking with Mark Ganz, CEO of Tournament Golf Foundation, who
actually
runs chairman of the board. Okay. Tournament, the Portland Classic. We'll get to that way. Okay. So Mark, this is something new in the show. Each week I ask a guest to give us their best golf travel tip. The actual name of the segment is called Golf tip travel tips, but you can't say that 3 times really fast. So we just look for golf travel tips. And you're very well traveled, not only when you were the CEO of Cambia and all that, but you're golfing. The first time I ever talked to you on the phone, you were down in Cave Creek, I think, playing golf with your son.
Yeah.
Um, so what would be a travel tip from Mark Ganz?
Like a place to go. Is that what
Any,
you're thinking?
anything you want.
Well, I think golf travel with one's kids is hard to beat. I
Yeah,
got a chance to take my daughter down to the Monterey Peninsula, and those, and that happened just this spring, and it was just magical. Uh, I don't think there are a few things that I think are better ways to spend time with one's kids than out on a golf course.
right.
Uh, and we had such a good time together, and then some really good meals afterwards. And she's 23, so it was just a really nice time together.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I might say is my one of my favorite sort of hidden gem golf courses is up in northern Idaho at a lake called Priest Lake. And I've been coming here since I was a baby. My parents had a cabin on the lake. And sometime, I think in the 1970s, they built a golf course uh, near the lake. It's not on the lake, but it's nearby. And it cuts through the forest and through some beautiful meadows. You often see wildlife while you're playing um, around, and it's it's a really neat experience. It's a great kind of North Woods experience of golf.
Sure.
I'll share that with you.
I know in some of those courses, I see a lot of wildlife because I'm usually chasing my ball in the shrubs or the forest or something. So,
Me too. Me
yeah.
too.
Yeah. So you get to see that. We'd like to thank the folks at Weston Kia and Kia Northwest there for supporting this part of the show. Like I said, we're talking with Mark Gans, who's the chairman of Tournament. Can't talk today. Tournament Golf Foundation, and they put on the Portland Classic. Is this what your 50th, 51st year?
53rd.
53rd. Okay.
And we are now the longest running event in a single community on the tour, because when the we launched our tournament the same year that the Dinah Shore Craft Nabisco launched in 1972, but they were earlier in the year, so they could brag of being the longest running tour event, and we could brag that we were the longest non-major tour event, having launched the same year. But now that they moved that tournament to Houston, and now it's called the Chevron.
Right.
Now Portland holds the distinction of having the longest running LPGA tournament, which we're very proud of. And Portland right now, needs events like this. Portland and Portlanders, because there's a lot of things that we'd like to see improve in this community, and I hear about it everywhere I go. And I keep reminding people that if we want to bring back Portland to where we remember it was at its, in its peak, two things have to happen. One, we have to believe that Portland's best days are ahead of us, not behind us. And two, that we've got to preserve the great events that bring families together and people together, and events like the Rose Festival, events like this tournament.
Right.
And the only way that it can survive is if people, one, we want fans to attend. Two, we need volunteers to help execute the tournament, and we are still looking for more volunteers for this year. You can go to portlandclassic.com, and it's very easy to become a volunteer, and you can help select what you want to do. So it's not like you're just told what you're going to do. You have the opportunity to say, I would like to be a marshal, or I would like to drive players, or I would like to greet players. Those kinds of things you can choose. But it really is a people powered event. And so volunteers, fans, and sponsors. And we are so grateful for our sponsors. We have about 36 of them this year. And they've been very, that's, I remember, and you probably remember, Jeff, there was a time when there was only one sponsor, literally one sponsor that bought the whole tournament, if you will, and that was Safeway.
Right.
But then when they gave up that sponsorship, the tournament was in trouble. And so that's when Cambia got involved. And then Cambia's goal was to not just be the sole sponsor, but to help build out the sponsor base. And now, 10 years later, we have a very nice, diverse set of local and regional sponsors, and we're very happy about that. What we're missing is we don't have a title sponsor. And that is a matter of someone stepping up and making a multi-million-dollar commitment to the tournament and to the community. And that's something we've been working on, trying to find that right sponsor. And that's hard. That's hard right now. I think.
Do you think, Mark, that is somewhat contingent to whatever degree on what you just touched on a minute ago, that, Portland needs to have hope and the best days in front of us, et cetera? And I agree with you, but also the facts of the last few years, very difficult to deal with, I don't want to berate our city, but with crime and homelessness and drug use and violence and all that stuff, until that gets, if you will, pacified on a road to correction, it might be, I'm just saying this as a business guy to another business guy, it might be difficult to get somebody to make that kind of commitment until they see that little bit of a turn in the corner.
Jeff, you're correct. We have heard that from sponsors that they've all, the ones we've talked to, they've all agreed to become sponsors.
Yeah.
But to decide you want to be a presenting or a title level sponsor, which is a much more significant investment of dollars, I certainly understand why corporations are being cautious about that kind of investment in Portland right now. And we've heard that caution from some, not all of them. Some have other reasons for why they don't feel that it's the right time for them to step up as title. And a lot of it can have to do with the economy and things going on. But there is no question that there is, I think, well-earned cautiousness on the part of company leaders about, would this be a good investment? Would this be a wise investment? I try to convince them. I'm more of a different type. When I was the CEO of Cambia, we jumped in and we said, there are things in the community that are more important, and you just have to make a decision that it is not that you throw caution to the wind, but you have to make calculated decisions that help boost the community.
Yes.
Right now, Portland needs that, and Portlanders need that. And their opportunity exists for a leader to say, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. And even though it may be high risk.
Yep. We're going to take another break. Mark Ganz and I will be back right after this on Grilling at the Green. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. As I told you at the top of the show, this Grilling at the Green is not only a radio show and podcast version that gets released every week, but it's now going to be a television show. And my co-host on the barbecue side, Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen, and I do the food segments. And then we do profiles of people, interesting people, not all top tournament players or any of that. That's fine. But we also people behind the scenes or who have had an impact on golf, interesting writers and actors and things of that nature. So that will be coming to the new Golf Newsnet television channel on a number of providers out there. So I will keep you posted on that. And again, we'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills, Birdie Ball, and Pig Powder. If you don't know what, Mark probably doesn't know what pig powder is. Pig powder is a very good barbecue rub created by my radio wife's father, So you just go to pigpowder.com if you want to cook some great barbecue with that. How about that? Um, and like I said, we're talking with Mark Ganz, chairman of Tournament Golf Foundation. I just want to follow up just for a little bit on what we were talking about in the previous segment, Mark. I think it'll come. I'm always hopeful on those things. I think it will come. Um, but right now, we never talk politics on this show, and I don't want to. But I think the mood of the country is so edgy right now about a whole litany of things
Yeah.
that maybe in the 2025 tournament, a lot of that stuff will get resolved or on the way to being resolved. And
I
then
hope
maybe you can, get somebody to step up and do
I,
that.
we're working on it right now. We're in terms of lining up as a title sponsor for the 2025 tournament, and
Yeah.
I'm going to remain optimistic that the timing will work. We have a great product. The LPGA has told us, and we know this to be true, but they've confirmed it, that we are the most efficiently run tournament on their entire calendar. We do not have we do not have a a cost issue with this tournament. We are lean as lean can be. I mean, our tournament director is a volunteer, Rick McCloskey, and he does it because he loves the game, and he's all in. And I think we're the only tournament where the tournament director is not a paid professional. In this case, he's a professional. He's just not paid. He does it because he believes in this tournament. No one has a greater commitment to it than him, and we're very lucky to have him.
I think
But
Mary Jo might have something to do with that too. I'm
yeah,
just throwing that out there.
she's a wonderful icon of golf in our community that, again, a lot of people don't know about. And Mary Jo is as you know, is the coach of the national championship winning George Fox women's golf program, and she's just also a published author as of this year.
Yeah.
She's a force. She is a force of nature.
That's one way to put it.
And,
Yeah,
and
she is.
and Rick is too. Rick is just, he's that way. But so the only challenge that this tournament has is a revenue challenge. It's all about sponsorship. And we're very grateful for the number of sponsors that have shown their commitment to this community by sponsoring this tournament. And one of the things that we added that I'll just mention is the Women's Leadership Summit, which
Yeah.
my vision, you and I have talked about this before, but my vision has always been that this is not just about golf. This is about the community more broadly. And so the Women's Leadership Summit was something that we started several years ago. It's out every year at the Nike Tiger Woods Center. I went last year. It was incredibly well attended, and the quality of the speakers and panels was off the charts high. It was such a rich day, and we're doing that again this year. We're expecting at least 400 men and women that will attend, and it's one of the largest women's leadership conferences in the whole Northwest. So we're proud of that.
It's a good thing. I've when they used to hold them there at Columbia Edgewater, I shot them a couple times. I didn't with a camera, people.
Plan on coming out, Jeff. I think you would be glad you did.
I'll see if I can do that. Actually, I can do that. It's all good. You touched on something there, Mark, that's really, I think a lot of people don't understand if they've never been involved with on the business side, if you will. I'm not talking about sponsorships, but I mean the facilitating of an event, a golf tournament, a horse show. I don't care what it is. It's a lot of work, as people could imagine. But you've got to magnify that about 4 times your imagination to really get a grip on how much of the intricacy of it is to put on an event like this.
Yes.
Are things branded properly? Are things logoed properly? Is the seating adequate and proper and things like that, or the whole flags, are the Xfinity signs to the crossways. The only reason I know that is because I took about 1 million pictures of them over the years. Between 10 and 11 or 12 and 13 or whatever it is, you've got, and all of that stuff has to be. You can't forget it. It's got to be
Right.
involved in the plan and the execution
Yep.
of putting on a tournament like this.
And it's all volunteers that do it. And we have volunteers that have been, who are some of the captains of the various pieces. They've been doing this for years for the tournament, and they're fierce and fiercely proud of what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and really focused on excellence. Sure, we've had every year there are things that happen, screw ups or unexpected things happen. Sometimes
Yeah.
Mother Nature has been involved with a windstorm or something. But but uh, but it's amazing how well run the tournament, how consistently well run the tournament has been. And my hat's off to the volunteers that show up every year, take great pride in their work, and work very long hours to make it work. And then I need to give a shout out to Little Bird Media, which is a women-owned, women-run business here in Portland. And they, sometimes just you get manna from heaven. And I, to this day, I don't know exactly how we found each other, but they came to get involved with this tournament, and their focus has always been the sponsorship side, but they they also have a fierce dedication to excellence. And
Mm-hmm.
the amount of volunteer hours that everyone in that firm puts in during the tournament is remarkable. But that just shows that that's the type of great companies we have here in Portland, that they don't, they get paid for providing a professional service, but they become all in on the tournament. And so then they devote enormous amount of hours beyond what they get paid to make sure that sponsors have a great time, that the tournament is well run. And it just warms my heart. That's why I want so much for this tournament to continue in this town, because it brings out the best of Portland. And boy, on TV, on the Golf Channel, it's pretty sweet to see those pictures of Portland that they show.
Yes.
It should be a point of pride for everyone who lives in this greater region.
Absolutely. Monica and Lynn do a really good job for you. And
Just great people.
yeah, they are. And there is no golf tournament that I know of, men's, women's, amateur, whatever, that can afford to have a paid staff as far as the event. They may have some paid people, a tournament director here or there, whatever, an office somewhere. But if you even look at Augusta, but there's a waiting list to get on the volunteer staff at Augusta.
Yeah.
And each tournament comes with some perks for whatever they decide is correct for that particular tournament. But for people to know that out of all the people you see on television and all the people you hear about working in whether they're concessionaires or parking attendants or what have you, uh, it's tough, and they're not getting anything to put in their wallet to take home. They may get a free round of golf, they may get a golf shirt, they may get a free lunch every day, whatever it is. It's usually all in a package deal, and I know you guys do the same
That's what
thing.
we do. Yeah, same thing.
But it's you couldn't do it. The cost of putting on a tournament would be so outrageous
Yeah,
to pay people even minimum wage, whatever state minimum wage is, wherever the tournament is. You really couldn't do it.
right. It's interesting that most tournaments hire an outside firm to kind of do the operational pieces of the tournament.
Mhm.
That firm, big companies like IMG and the like, and that is the norm. Uh, One of the things that I think has always set apart the Tournament Golf Foundation is it was volunteer driven and volunteer run, and most of the years of the existing of the tournament was it was a primarily volunteer driven event. We've tried the model of hiring, a turnkey operation, if you will, over. And the organizations we've worked with, they're different, but they've, and they do good work. They work hard. But we we've been very pleased with the last 3 years and doing it as an entirely volunteer driven event. It's a lot of work for those of us who believe in this tournament, but it's you're kind of exhausted at the end of the week.
Right.
You get a chance to crown a new champion. It feels awfully good, Jeff.
Yeah,
It makes it
it
worth it.
it does. Mark and I are going to take a break and come back and wrap up the show, and then I'm going to have him stick around for a few minutes for after hours. You're listening to Grilling at the Green. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. Today we're talking with Mark Ganz, chairman of the board at Tournament Golf Foundation. For some reason, my tongue, I must be the heat, Mark. It's all dried out or something like that. And the Portland Classic coming up at Columbia Edgewater, August 1st through the 4th. You have a kids tournament out there on Saturday. They have a par 3 course. You see it when you come up the hill from the parking. It'll be off to your left there. And I don't know exactly how kids can enter that other than going to the website and signing up.
That's
But
it.
yeah.
Go to portlandclassic.com. It's for young, middle school. I think there's even been some grade school girls and then high school girls. There's 2 different divisions. And it's on Saturday. We've had good luck with players who didn't make the cut to play on Saturday. Some of them have shown up at this tournament to chaperone the kids. Les Schwab has been our partner for that event, and it's been very popular with the girls and with their parents.
Oh, yeah. Now, we got a couple minutes left here. Talk about ticket prices and packages or whatever you have there for them.
Okay, so I don't know the exact dollar number for the tickets, but let me tell you, it's pretty easy to attend. It's less than a cost of a movie. That much I know.
Yeah.
And you get a lot more, and you get a lot more value for it. Number 2, if you're a member of Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield, you just show your card and you get in free. If you're a member of AAA on Thursday, just show your card, you get in free. If you're an Umpqua Bank customer, you get in free throughout the entire tournament. If you're a military or a veteran, you get in free. If you're under 17, you get in free. You kind of get this theme.
Yeah. I got 2 out of 6 of them so far, Mark.
Yeah. So, well, then you're in. But that's our view is we want this to be a family friendly, family fun. We have a family fun zone. Remember that, Jeff? You saw that is going to be back this year, and it's going to be wonderful as it was the last couple of years. And we had families who came on Friday with the kids and then came back on Saturday with the kids and came back on Sunday with the kids because the kids had such a good time. They wanted to come back. And because they were able to get into the tournament free. It was good, inexpensive family fun. This tournament is, we don't choose to make money on the tournament by, charging high ticket prices. That's not our model. Our model is that's the sponsors that make it go. And we want to make sure that people feel like they can come and can come at an affordable price. So,
oh, that's a good thing. That's always a good thing because things, if you're a family of 4 or 5, things get real expensive really quickly. Even if you're gonna, not to pick on anybody, but went through a hamburger joint the other day, drive through. And for me and my wife, and it wasn't anything special. It was just a, cheeseburger, fries, and a strawberry shake. and it was $32 for the
Yeah.
two of us. And multiply that times if you have a family of 5. So it gets very expensive. And this is something that I think people can go out and enjoy really relatively inexpensively and
Yeah.
have a fun afternoon.
Yeah. And one of the additions this year, and we kind of had in mind the idea that it's going to be midsummer, but we're going to have 2 beer gardens out on the course. That's a new addition this year, so that people, can get beer and have a place to sit and watch a little golf while they're drinking a beer or a non-alcoholic beverage. And so we think that's going to be a nice and well appreciated addition. Of course, we're going to have the food carts out. Some of Portland's great food carts. They'll be out there again. And boy, that has been a big hit. And who likes those maybe the most? It's the LPGA players themselves and their caddies, because that is such a unique Portland thing.
Right.
And so we'll definitely have that again.
Yeah. If you've not been to the food court, what Mark's talking about, it is not unusual to see one of the players, or at least their caddy, standing in line, and the lines aren't very long, to get whatever it is, their barbecue, their Asian food, their Greek gyros, whatever it is, they're all there.
Yep.
Again, August 1st through the 4th at Columbia Edgewater, and you can go to portlandclassic.com. Is that right,
Yep.
Mark? Okay. You can do that, and we expect to see you out there. Mark is going to stick around, but thank you for being on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
You got it. We'll be back next week with another edition of Grilling at the Green. Until then, go out, play some golf, have some fun, and most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Hey, welcome to After Hours here on Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, and today we've got Mark Ganz, the chairman of the board of Tournament Golf Foundation. Tournament Golf has been around a long time.
Yes.
It's since the 70s?
1972.
Yeah.
I and my colleagues on the board stand on very broad shoulders, shall we say, of people who went before. It's amazing when you go back to the original founders and what, they just had a vision. They wanted to support women professional golfers, and they wanted to bring a major tournament to Portland, and they just set about doing it and made it happen. And it started at Portland Golf Club.
Yes.
Many of the original volunteers were members of that club, and so they started it at that tournament there. And then it was a, as you might recall, Jeff, it was originally a stroke play, single player, and then it became a team event for several years. I think that was also at Portland Golf Club, and then it moved to Columbia Edgewater, and then was at Columbia Edgewater for many years, and then it moved to Pumpkin Ridge.
Pumpkin Ridge.
2 years, and then back to Columbia Edgewater, where it's been every year except the 1 year that we had at Oregon Golf Club, which was actually our 50th anniversary year, was the year that we did it at the Oregon Golf Club.
Yes. I remember shooting the tournament at Pumpkin. And I remember one particular summer there, it got very, very hot, very hot. And even the hardened old boiled owl press guys like me were like phoning down to the press room saying, "Can you come up on the hill and pick me up? I don't want to walk down there anymore."
Yeah.
It was that.
There's not a lot of shade on that course. I mean, there's a couple holes that have shade, but there's a lot of holes where you're out there in the meadow.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah. You were like a walking barbecue right there. I can put it that way, like that. So Mark, you've been, as the head of Cambia, you were involved, like you said, for a long time, and then you became the chairman of TGF, and you've got a number of years now at the top of the helm there. What have you learned? What's the biggest thing you think you've learned?
That putting on golf tournaments, the easy part is the actual execution of the tournament, and that's pretty darn hard. I think the harder part is, at least for me, has been the financial support piece. Just getting companies and company leaders to understand that this is not just a golf tournament. This is not just about going and watching golf or
Right.
going and playing in a pro-am, but it's about empowering women, um, not just in golf, but you know, empowering the women that work in their companies, by showing leadership in how you support women's sporting events. I think I've mentioned this stat to you, but it's shocking to me. It's appalling to me to think that of every dollar spent on a sports sponsorship by American companies, um, 90 cents of every dollar goes to a male sport, male professional or college sport, and only 10 cents goes to women. And that has to change. It's beginning to change. It's changing in women's soccer professionally, which was good. And now I think with the Caitlin Clark effect in women's basketball, we're starting to see genuine interest, and therefore sponsorship dollars flowing toward that sport. We've also seen it with golf. The LPGA is really coming on, and I think some of the malaise that maybe sometimes that people are feeling and leaders are feeling about men's golf because of the schism between LIV and PGA and the like, that I think more and more companies are taking a real look at women's golf and saying these the quality of the play is every bit as good as the men.
Mm-hmm.
The only real difference that you can say is that the men can drive the ball farther, than the women. But once that the drive is done, the game going into the green, the putting, I mean, it is super competitive. And I think that more companies are taking a hard look at it. And we're trying really hard to try to get more Oregon and Southwest Washington companies to take it, to really take a serious look at women's golf and say, this is important. This is important in living the values that women and men should be paid equally in sports as well as in every other walk of life.
Well, I think
The only
that's
way to make that happen, Jeff, the only way to make that happen is the sponsorship dollars, because the sponsorship dollars drive the amount you can pay in the purse. And if you don't have enough of the sponsorship dollars, then the purse is lower. And that means women aren't getting paid what men are getting paid for doing exactly the same thing, for putting in exactly the same effort. That's what I want to see most change before I pass on to on my life. I want to see that change dramatically. And golf is a great place to work at making that happen.
well, as it should. I mean, as it should change is what I'm referring
Yeah.
to there, because if I know people that listen to this show are obviously into golf, but if they're new to it or whatever, and they've never been to a LPGA tournament, those girls can hit the ball a mile. They
Yep.
can putt lights out. They could certainly smoke any of us on a match play or a stroke play or even a pro am. It's they're just that good. And one of the
They're really
reasons
they're really nice people, Jeff.
they're nice people.
You don't run into the entitlement mentality with these players. They know that they're getting a chance to do something that they truly love, and they know why they're able to do it.
Right.
So their appreciation of the sponsors and the volunteers is off the charts. And that is one of the things that I find um, is inspiring and motivating. I mean, I would do it anyway, but if even if that wasn't the case, but it's awfully nice when you're out there, and you see them interacting with the fans and the sponsors, and they get it.
Well, and the other thing is, Mark, you've seen this, I've seen this, if you're around, and not begrudging the PGA Tour players. But most of these girls do not show up with an entourage. They don't show up with a cook. They don't show up with their own masseuse. They don't show up with their putting coach, their overall swing coach, their sight guru. and 4 or 5 relatives and agent in tow.
And they
They
fly commercial.
and they fly
Not
commercial.
private jets.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean there's a big difference there and there's reasons for those differences, but like you said, they're nice people. I know over the years when I've talked to them, interviewed them, whatever, they've always tried to be more than accommodating. And you can't always say that on the guys tour. And I'm not slamming the guys because it's a different world over there. But I found that the LPGA tour players, one, like you said, they don't have a sense of entitlement. They're happy to be there. They worked hard on their games. They made their sacrifices. They made it to the tour. They can make a really good living and more on there if they keep their game at that level, and they know it and they appreciate it. Um, and I honestly, I'm going to say this. I've never said this on the show. I don't think there's as many head cases when it comes to fixing your swing or your putting on the LPGA tour as there are on the guys tours.
I think
Uh,
I don't know I don't factually I don't know whether that's correct or not, but I don't see it. I
yeah,
agree with your observation that I don't see that as much. I mean, I agree with you that the men's game is it's a great game. I I feel though that the women's game, certainly from a sponsorship perspective, is a much better value because there's so much upside um, for the women's game that a sponsor can get involved and can with a reasonable investment make a huge impact. Whereas the economics are so different now on the men's game that if you wanted to come in and even be $1 million sponsor of a tournament, you're kind of get lost in the mix, if you know what I
yeah.
mean. Because the dollars are so crazy right now. So it's a really good value, and a company can come in and play a big role and make a big difference.
So before we go here, Mark, what is one thing you would like to see um, about women's professional golf and the Portland Classic, sponsorships aside? But what is one thing you would like to see or is on your radar for 25, 26, 27, 28, whatever of those tournaments?
I'd like to see our purse get much higher. The Portland Classic purse used to be, kind of in the middle range, and now it's at the low range. And the reason for that is both a good news, bad news. The good news is it means that other tournaments in other cities are getting the kind of sponsorship support that has allowed them to raise their purses.
Mm-hmm.
The bad news is that hasn't happened here in Portland yet. And until we get that level of sponsorship support at the at larger dollar levels, we just can't raise the purse because it's a zero sum game that way. So we get more sponsorship dollars. We have a clear focus on raising the purse. We have raised the purse in the last 5 years, and we've foregone bells and whistles, if you will, around the tournament in order to get the purse up, but we're still not where we need to be and to make this tournament a long-term sustainable proposition. And so that's my number one goal is getting the purse up so that the women who come here and play feel like it was worth them coming here to play.
Yeah,
Number one. And number two, that I just want to see women athletes get paid on an equal basis with men. I mean,
absolutely.
and the only way that's going to change is if companies make different decisions driven by their CEOs, not by their marketing departments, but by their CEOs that say this matters. And we're going to change our sponsorship philosophies where instead of being a 90 cent to men sports and 10% to women, it's going to be 50-50. When I was CEO of Cambia, I'm not bragging, but we changed that. We went to almost 90% of our sponsorship dollars went to women's sports. And we did that because I thought it was important to set that example. And
Yeah.
there were people in my company that tried to talk me out of it. Oh, no, you don't have the same you don't get as many eyeballs on women's sports as men's sports. And I said, well, the reason for that is because the sponsorship dollars aren't there. So we're
Yeah.
going to put sponsorship dollars there, and that's going to start changing the game. So that's the type of leadership we need in this, that, in this community. And I think we can get it done.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Mark Ganz, chairman of the board of Tournament Golf Foundation. Don't forget the Portland Classic coming up August 1st through the 4th at Columbia Edgewater, and you can go to portlandclassic.com. Mark, thank you as always. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. We'll be back next week with another edition of Grilling at the Green. Until then, go out, play some golf, be kind, and take care, everybody.